Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior leader from the world of human resources from Pennsylvania, USA, Mark Morgenfruh. Mark, welcome to the show.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mark is the President and Chief Executive Officer of GetHR Ready. He's also an author of a book titled Never Fire Anyone.
I believe it.
And there's the book. So, Mark, before we start talking about GetHR Ready, a few questions for you. You have over 3 decades of experience in HR across so many areas. What first drew you into the world of human capital?
What's interesting is, truth be told, it was a random happened to fall into it.
Mm-hmm.
So my undergrad is in English literature. I've always loved reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened my last day of undergrad, I went to the Career Center at the university. I looked, and I won't date myself, but this is going back before online job postings in Indeed.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a book of employer job postings. The top one was the Trump Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino,
Mm-hmm.
human resources representative. I called. The woman said it was still open. I went home, got into a suit, and went down, interviewed, and started 2 weeks later.
Wow.
The nice thing was my mother worked as a secretary in human resources for a hospital. So it wasn't that it was a completely
Mm-hmm.
foreign career path for me. So I had a little bit of a background and understanding to what it was. But honestly, it just happened.
Absolutely. As they say, life happens, but you seem to have
Mm-hmm.
made it happen in a very, very successful way.
I love
Mark,
it.
Mark, my next question. You've advised organizations through mergers, acquisitions, and cultural transformations. What has been the toughest lesson you have learned from these experiences?
Early on, and it was really, if not the first, I think it was the first deal right off the bat, where everybody is excited
Mhm.
in the boardroom about the opportunity to merge the organizations, take advantage of synergies,
Mhm.
market verticals, expand this, that, and the other. And there's very, very little talk about the impact to the people.
Mhm.
And that really, I won't say it rubbed me the wrong way. I'm a novice, right? So I really have no opinion. I'm just kind of learning at this point. So I don't know enough to know whether this is good, bad, or indifferent. But
Mhm.
it struck me as odd. And what I didn't like was the fact that everybody loves to talk about the importance of the people, how much they make a difference. Without the people, our company would be nothing, et cetera, et cetera. But then when they got into an area of M&A and deals where jobs were potentially on the line and it could possibly be a matter of um, uncertainty and people were walking around fearing for their jobs. There was no communication plan. There was no goal for that. There was no objective. It was just like, no, this is good. Trust me. And so in my advice going forward, I just made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to be this pom pom rah rah cheerleader. You got to think about the people, but I was going to inject that we need a discipline of communication and care and thought
Mhm.
around what we're doing to these people in their lives. And that can only be a good thing. If you take a careful approach and you show them that you love them and you care, and yes, it will be change, and yes, it will be
Mhm.
different, and yes, it might be chaos,
Mhm.
but we're here for you and we're going to help you. You
Mhm.
could only make the cultural blend and the transition better.
Fascinating. Let's now talk about Get HR Ready and a few questions about your book. In your view, what is the biggest flaw in the way organizations traditionally approach human resources?
Well, I don't think there's any one. I think it's on a continuum
Hmm.
which relates to A, the size and sophistication of the organization,
Hmm.
as well as B, their kind of phase of HR support and what they have. So, for example, some organizations couldn't care less. They do nothing. They ignore it at their peril. And they don't even have the core compliance building blocks like a handbook and the labor posters in the workplace and things like that.
Mm.
And that's a flaw at the most fundamental level where they don't even have the blocking and tackling down. So not even the basics.
Mm.
Then as it moves on, organizations get larger and they have more sophisticated needs. And usually it's your controller, it's your CFO that's handling HR. And they get to a point of size and complexity
Mm.
that they're a fish out of water. And that finance person is like, yeah, uncle, I quit. Like, I can't do the HR anymore. I don't know enough. And I'm afraid that what I'm doing is wrong and is putting the company at risk. So then
Mm.
they invest in HR and it's transactional only. And
Yeah.
I get it. That's the practical answer. And they get somebody in with an HR mindset that gets the compliance and the sensitivities.
Mm.
But then they stop there. They don't really take the HR function into a level that helps to really advance the organization,
Mm.
promotes and represents culture, communicates well, learning and growth. And we all know the primary driver why people leave jobs is they don't feel like they have a growth path
Mm.
and any tie to the organization. They want to make a difference. They want to understand how they fit.
Mm.
And so they stop at the transactional HR. And I'm never advocating for necessarily consultants or adding headcount, but what they lose when they stop at transactional HR
Mm. Mm.
is, maybe we need a compensation program
Yeah.
that proves we're paying competitively, has the proper governance, has the right incentives that are driven by financial outcomes in the business, tied to EBITDA, whatever it is.
Mm.
And they don't think about hiring an external expert. They don't need it all the time. They need somebody to
Mm.
come in and do a project.
Sure.
It's in a box. It has a beginning and an ending. And they stop at transaction. They don't think about how people programs can actually enhance the organization and,
Mm.
and help it grow.
Great response. You also say that we should stop leading companies and start leading people. Help me understand this and give me an example if you can.
Well, I think a broad example, which I think a lot of people could relate to, is let's say month end numbers or quarter end numbers. So simple, what were sales? What's top line revenue?
Mm.
What's net profit? What are our operating costs? Why did this go up? Why did that go up? Why didn't
Mm.
you sell 10 million instead of 9 million, et cetera? So they start with these reports and they stay entrenched in the data.
Mm.
And data is a compass. It,
Mm.
it is not the destination. So you're trying to get to a different outcome. So your
Mm.
destination is, well, why didn't this happen? Or if it's phenomenal, great numbers,
Mm.
how can we do more of this? How do we protect our strengths and do more of the good stuff? And so they stay entrenched in this spreadsheet, this BI dashboard, whatever it is they're looking at.
Mm.
And they do not translate it to the people part. And you can't lead a dashboard. You can't lead an Excel spreadsheet. You can't lead a revenue row on a report, et cetera. You
Mm.
have to translate to what happened or didn't happen, pro or con, plus or minus,
Mm.
that drove that result that we like or we don't like. And how are you going to translate that into leading the people that create the work, effort, and output, be
Mhm.
it service and or product, that then translates to that quarterly or monthly line that you're caring, I won't say too much about, because for-profit companies, we don't do this for charity. We do this to make a living, and to turn a buck and to help our shareholders. But you're not translating what you like or don't like into the people activities and goals and focus. And so you sit there focused in a boardroom,
Mm.
either patting each other on the back because you're so great or screaming at each other because you're so bad on a BI dashboard that you can't change unless you get yourself out of that room and onto the floor and go, Susie, what happened last month?
Mm.
This is atypical. And what are we going to do? What was your plan to fix this? So
Yeah.
that's why I think
Yeah.
we're leading companies, we're not leading people.
Well said. You've seen many cultural transformations, Mark. What's the single most important element for success when it comes to a cultural transformation?
Well, have to be able to, what I call, I've always called it with my staff, let's talk it out. And communication is, I mean, how many decades have we all been saying this in the business world? And we still haven't gotten it right. Today, we love our avoidant behavior to hide behind a screen and a keyboard, and we think we're leading people, we're directing people, and we're not having conversations and personal interactions. And so it's hilarious. I mean, for 50 years, maybe more, we've been saying communication is the single biggest difference maker in how we take what we think we should do with our strategic plan and translate it to an operational plan, and then translate it to tactical acts that we do. And so the biggest pitfall is we all think we're communicating because we think we're sending out a lot of really long, convoluted stuff. Look, all the information is in there. You have to stop, get off the machine, sit down, either face-to-face, Zoom, whatever it is in a conference room. You have to have one-on-ones and you have to have team meetings. And you have to be able to talk through the good stuff and, most importantly, the bad stuff, and end this avoidant behavior of hiding behind the keyboard.
Well said. With AI and automation changing work and technology virtually being an all-encompassing cover for all the work that's happening in the organization, how should HR leaders rethink people strategy?
I think, and it's a little bit of piggybacking the communication, but more the leading people than the process or the company's aspect. There's fear with the introduction of AI and new technology, job loss, etc. So if you don't communicate as an HR department how the organization's technology and AI strategy is going to translate into the business and what the tomorrow world looks like engaging that technology, human beings are left to make it up on their own.
Yeah.
And we all tend to take a conservative point of view and think the worst. And then sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Where if you think the worst, now all of a sudden you're performing, you're communicating less or poorly, and you're performing less or poorly because you have this chip on your shoulder that this technology is going to replace me one day. So HR needs to pivot and engage AI and technology in a transactional way that gets employees and organizations answers that they need to administrative things, that frees up the time for them to do this strategic collaborative communication, which helps weave technology in with, it shouldn't even be a parallel. It should be a together, and people should understand how it should go forth in the organization, and be candid and honest that yes, this may impact XYZ jobs, etc. But here's our retooling plan for your skill set and your knowledge base to help you continue to be successful here and help us do other cooler, better, more sophisticated stuff.
Well said. And how does your model challenge the traditional command and control approach to leadership?
Well, what's funny is I've read recently in the last couple of days major organizations talking about layoffs and things like that, and you know, there are, I think, rare instances, theft, violence in the workplace. I would even argue somebody who is using drugs in the workplace, it's a cry for help. They are seriously dependent, and they probably need a last chance offer and should be given a chance to go to counseling and rehab and not be terminated.
Yeah.
But there are a handful of things that are cause for termination. But by and large, I do really believe if you hire properly and if you engage people in trust and empathetic leadership through speaking candidly, even the bad stuff, that transcends the current model that's out there, that command and control. And so what I mean by that is, so I'll give you an example. If the director in this situation had simply used the command and control, my manager isn't cutting it, I want to fire them, so much would have been lost. So I had a district manager and a regional manager. Regional manager did fantastic physical work. They were building sets in a store, displays, but the paperwork was atrocious. Misspellings, words you couldn't even read, etc.
Hmm.
And so he came to me, the district manager came to me about the regional manager and said, I don't know what to do with this guy. His work is fantastic, but his
Hmm.
paperwork is atrocious.
Hmm.
And I said, to be honest with you, I said, if your friends, if you care about him, forget peer, boss, whatever, or employee boss relationship, you have to have this hard conversation with him. You have to develop a level of trust that he can tell you what's going on in his life because
Hmm.
something's up. They had a talk. Come to find out, it was a literacy issue.
Hmm.
And so he didn't understand English. He couldn't read it. He couldn't write it. He was muddling his way through paperwork, which is why when he built to the display, it was brilliant.
Hmm.
And when he filled out his paperwork, it was, who is this guy? He
Hmm.
can't be the same person.
Yeah.
They talked. They cried it out. No, not lying, not exaggerating. He enrolled in, it was in the 5 boroughs of New York. The library system handles the ESL and literacy programs. He enrolled. They have the strongest working and personal relationship today that would have been lost if they followed the command and control. Your paperwork stinks. I'm writing you up. Your paperwork stinks again. I'm giving you a final warning. Your paperwork stinks the last time. You're terminated. All that could have been easily done, and anybody can go to sleep at night going, well, I followed the rules. Well,
Hmm.
let's do more than the rules. Let's think about people. And then you build empathy with these folks, and then they'll run through walls for you. They will do
Hmm.
anything for you because they know you have their back.
Amazing. Mark, let's now talk about your book, Never Fire Anyone. The title itself is very provocative. What was the motivation to write the book?
Um, it was quite some time ago. So as you know, books don't materialize
Absolutely.
overnight or within just a few months. So this
Hmm.
is a culmination of a lot of years of experience.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you exactly how far back it was, but
Yeah.
one day it just struck me. We were going through an exercise of people planning and workforce reductions and things like that. And I literally just yelled out, why the hell do we ever have to fire anybody?
Hmm.
Again, aside from those few reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I kind of toted that with me around for many years. And now being in a service provider's role as an HR practitioner shop, I have clients that don't necessarily embrace that. So while I believe it, they may not. And so I
Hmm.
have to flex to my clients. But I truly believe that if you hired properly
Hmm.
and you lead with trust and empathy,
Hmm.
then you will build successful people. I think there's this unfortunate stereotype of lazy workers,
Hmm.
and people are trying to get away with stuff and they don't really want to do anything. They want a free paycheck, etc. And that unfortunately is a prevalent misconception when it's maybe 1 out of 1,000 people.
Hmm.
I assert that human beings on this planet in the working environment want to show up. They want to know what they're responsible for doing. They desire to do a good job. They want the recognition. They want to learn and grow, and they want a decent paycheck with it.
Hmm.
And we're all walking around with this conspiracy theory that everybody's out to get us, and that drives me nuts.
Hmm.
And the last component of what I say is a value and not values based um, disciplinary model that never fire anyone represents. It's much like the military. If you are in a role or promoted to a role and you are incapable of doing that role,
Hmm.
well, they don't do what corporate America's done for decades. I'm just going to leave you there, look the other way. I'm not going to adjust your job or adjust your pay until I've had enough, and then I'm going to fire you.
Hmm.
And I think that what should be embraced with the never fire anyone model is the value based. listen, I promoted you to X. You're not cutting it at X. I'm going to have a trustful and empathetic relationship with you to be able to tell you that.
Hmm.
Even the hard talks. I'm going to give you a couple, three chances to turn this ship around and to operate optimally at X. You need to meet requirements.
Hmm.
But if not, I need to reduce your job and your compensation to a level where you are generating value for the organization. Again, and this is a for-profit company example,
Hmm.
even in a nonprofit, you still need to be able to produce enough that generates value. And if it's not at level X, it's at level Y. Now, you're either going to turn it around at level Y and you're going to get the cold water in the face and, wow, I really better get super serious about doing better so I can really be X again. Or you're going to be so dissatisfied, you're going to self-select out of the organization.
Hmm.
And so we can't walk around as businesses letting people operate in jobs that they're not performing well,
Hmm.
and we're paying them at the level of compensation for that job, and we're essentially losing money. We're not getting value for it. So I have to take a value-based disciplinary model to go, I'm bumping you down. It's unpleasant. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I assure you nobody enjoys doing it.
Hmm.
But if you're going to not fire anybody and if you're going to retain people that are supposed to be the difference maker in your organization, and you're supposed to have done an excellent job of hiring, and
Hmm.
if you promoted internally, you probably should have done a double excellent job because you know them already. You promoted them from Y to X. Then you have to take this approach and go, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you. We've invested a lot of time. We spent a lot of time together. You know a lot about this organization. I just can't keep you where you are because you're not killing it. I need you to kill it at that job, and hopefully one day you will.
Well said. I have time for one more question for you.
Sure.
Um, what are the key principles or framework of your book that you would like listeners or future HR leaders to remember?
Well, it, here's kind of the Rosetta Stone skeleton key, little simple nugget that I do either in my executive coaching or training of others. Um, the direct answer to your question is trust and empathy, but let me end with this.
Yeah.
There are so many supervisors and leaders that are afraid to have the tough conversations about
Hmm.
poor performance.
Hmm.
They don't know how to start it. They're afraid it's going to go off the rails.
Hmm.
And this I think is the magic bullet. It is the simplest thing. If you have led these people with candor and open communication that has established a platform of trust
Hmm.
between you, and when they have had hard times, you have reacted with empathy and they know that you're there for them, then it is a simple conversation and it opens with one question. So, how do you think you're doing?
Hmm.
In all but the most rare instances when somebody is so divorced from reality
Hmm.
that they think they're Michael Jordan and their junior varsity point guard at the high school
Hmm.
performance level, which is rare, unless they think they're killing it and they are so misinformed about their
Yeah,
own performance. They know where things are not optimal. They know
absolutely.
where things are going wrong. They usually start volunteering it. And once you get through that ice jam of, oh my God, how do I start this tough conversation? Which is very simple. Again, so how do you think things are going? And people that trust you will answer you. And then you're off to the races with identifying bullet points of what's off. And
Hmm.
then how are we going to fix this? It is literally that simple. You don't need a whole half day of training for this stuff or a workshop or a series. It's I love you. I trust you. I care about you when things go wrong in your life, and I will back you up. Therefore, I need to talk to you about this tough
Hmm.
stuff that's going on. And the opener is, how do you think things are going? And then I think, again, all for but the person who's so divorced from reality, it's a simple conversation after that. It is literally that easy.
Amazing, amazing. And on that note, Mark, I just want to say what a fabulous conversation this has been. You know, when
I
I
enjoyed it. Thank you.
When I started working in 1979, human resources as a function was very different. There was
Yep.
payroll, there was personnel
Benefits.
management, and there was
Yep.
industrial relations. And today
Yeah.
it's at the level of a C-suite. And people like you have seen the transition and have supported so many HR leaders in and around the US and probably around the world. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you for telling me about your book and some of your thoughts in managing human resources. Thank you again.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.